We got two things to talk about. We've got the MPG Cap, and I think all of you are familiar with that. And we've got the MPG Booster, and that is the new liquid form of the MPG Cap. The things that I'd like to talk about is what is it, how does it work, prove it, and then will it work in my car? That's really the bottom line. What it is, that pill that you have that you're selling and the liquid that you will have is a combustion catalyst. And that's not exactly true, because what you've got is the way to get the combustion catalyst. It's the precursor. And you put it in the fuel just because the fuel goes into the engine, into the combustion chamber. And what happens when it goes in there is it liberates the catalytic material that is then deposited on the piston face and the fire deck, which is the head, the top of the engine, and in fact on the spark plug. And one of the few things that I think are memorable and worth taking away from this meeting, what I'm saying today, is that your best salesman is the spark plug from your customer's car after they've done the conditioning. Because when they pull that spark plug out, it'll be red. That is the reason that it's effective in their car, and that's all you need to know. What a combustion catalyst does is this. This is a pit fire in Norway, and it's in exactly the same amount of crude oil in both pit fires. This is without the catalyst, and this is with the catalyst. Only difference, except it was a little bit lighter day, so they had to adjust the, because there was so little smoke, they had to adjust the focus on the camera. That's why the sky looks darker. They were trying to show what little smoke, just that there was some smoke left. That's what a combustion catalyst does. There are only three things that MPG Cap, MPG Booster does. Three things. The first thing is an immediate thing, and that is an increase in octane. That's the first thing. And then a little bit after that, that's immediate. That happens as soon as you put it into the tank, immediate increase in octane. Second thing is it removes carbon deposits from inside the engine. And that takes a little bit longer. That's what the conditioning period is. And then after you've done that, you wind up with the real benefit. And the real benefit is 10%, not 20%, not 30%, not 40%. We've tested this, I've tested this for 37 years. And in every reasonably controlled, precise test, it's 10%. Now, 10% isn't bad. 10% on a 20-gallon tank, to fill a 20-gallon tank at $2.50 a gallon, that's $50. 10% is $5. You're offering them a pill at $2 that saves them 10%. Do any of you have any investments that will give 150% return? I don't, and I'd like to hear about it if you do. This is the inside of, happens to be a Mercedes engine that was run, and it shows the piston faces. It's got the head taken off after 25,000 miles usage of the MPG Boost. And you'll notice that there's carbon up here, and this is now 25,000 miles after continuous use, proper use of the MPG Boost, and you see the red color. That is what gives the benefit. It's not the pill that you are selling. It's not the pill that your customer is putting in the fuel. It's what happens to that pill after it dissolves, when it gets in the combustion chamber and goes through the flame combustion. It's deposited on the piston face and fire deck, and that red coating is the source. You can take that piston, I've done this, you can take that piston out, you can pass a hexane air mixture over it, and that piston will give 100% conversion to carbon dioxide. And that piston will give 0 conversion to carbon dioxide. It is catalytic. Okay? So that's what it does. This is why it does it. That picture is taken with an atom force microscope. This is 1.3 million times magnification. And those little haystacks are 60 angstroms high and 120 angstroms wide. That is nanophase catalyst iron. This is an iron-based technology. That's really good news because every car and truck exhaust has the highest content of any metal is iron because they're built out of iron, amazingly enough, and it's a wear metal. And so we're not contributing anything unusual to the exhaust. And that nanophase structure is what causes the catalytic combustion benefit at the piston face and fire deck. That's why there is no benefit immediately. Got to understand that. Once you do that, you've got this. And once you've got that, you have the improved fuel economy. Measuring that is next to impossible. I'll explain that. That's the key part. This is your best salesman. This is a customer return spark plug. And you know why they returned it? Because it was red. Spark plugs aren't supposed to be red, and they were absolutely right about that. Spark plugs aren't supposed to be red. They're supposed to be black and smelly. This is completely clean. It's red on the electrode and red on the shoulder. That is the catalytic base of action. If that red coating is present in your customer's car, and it will be if they use the product properly, they will get the fuel economy benefit. And it'll be 10%, not 20%, not 40%. Some cars will show larger numbers. Some cars will show smaller numbers. This is the heart of the matter. This is a spark plug core nose. The core nose shows the iron coating down to this level. However, that is a totally non-conductive coating. It's an insulating coating. And that white stuff is porcelain, which is an insulator. And that little black thing in the center was the electrode. That's carbon or platinum. And that's what's supposed to conduct the electricity. These red spark plugs have been gotten back in reasonable quantity by Champion and AC, the two that I've talked to. Bosch won't talk to me, but the two that I've talked to are Champion and AC. And they've gotten quite a few of these back. And they know when they get them back that there is absolutely nothing wrong with their electrical performance. They're just red colored. And the reason they're red colored is the use of our product. You need to understand that you've got to tell your customer that a red spark plug is the only way that he can tell if the product is working. If it's red, he's getting the 10% benefit. If it's not red, he's not using the product properly, and he's not getting the 10%. Because if you don't tell him that, you're going to be buying a lot of spark plugs, which are perfectly fine spark plugs, except they're red. That's your best salesman, because the other thing that they're going to want, your customer's going to want, is for you to show them the improvement in fuel economy in their car. And we'll get to that in a minute. This, just to kind of complete the story, these are oxygen sensors. And all cars have two of them now. They used to have just one. And these control the engine. And this came back as a customer complaint also. And lo and behold, it was red. It was red on the outside, and the catalyst, which is zirconia, was shiny silver and 100% active. We had oxygen sensors tested by the manufacturer, and the red oxygen sensor tested as equally effective as the top 5% of the manufacturing range of oxygen sensors. It does not deteriorate in any way oxygen sensor or exhaust catalyst. In fact, 50,000 mile testing which is the catalyst durability test, 50,000 mile testing with the MPG Cap technology showed an improvement in all three exhaust gases, hydrocarbons, carbon dioxide, and oxides of nitrogen, when the MPG boost was used versus the exactly same car run at the same time where it didn't use the MPG boost. So it was an exact apples-to-apples comparison. Improves catalyst performance, does not deteriorate spark plug or oxygen sensor performance. Red is good. We like red, right? Okay. One of the things about this being a metal-containing additive that may occasionally raise a question is, oh boy, it's going to cause deposits. This happens to be an exhaust valve out of a heavy-duty diesel, and this exhaust valve, as you see it here, is red, amazingly enough. It has had 250,000 miles of usage, 100% treated with MPG Boost, the liquid product. It's actually a slightly different product because it's for diesel. This product has 1.38 million miles on it, as you see it here. 250,000 miles of those are with a product called Catane. I'll get into that in just a second. The recommended Caterpillar oil drain for this vehicle was 25,000 miles. This had, for the entire 1.4 million miles, extended oil drain, 40,000 miles. It should be really, one of the places that extended oil drain should show up is on the exhaust valve because of all the excess garbage that comes up from the dirty oil. That exhaust valve was judged by the Caterpillar service engineer who witnessed this teardown as what he told the company that owned the truck. He told them to put the parts, all of them, back in, including that valve, that he thought, based on his experience as the Caterpillar factory engineer, to go another million miles. There is no possibility. Thank you. This product, the active iron catalyst, you saw it was 60 angstroms. An atom is 5 angstrom. One atom, 5 angstrom in diameter. It's 60 angstroms, so it's a pile of maybe 10 atoms. That is, you can't see it. What you see with the red coating is the optical effect of that uniform nodule structure. But it cannot build up on itself. I have tried. I bought a car, I put a massive overdose in and repeated it over and over again, trying to destroy the engine. I couldn't. I couldn't destroy the engine. It did show increasing lube oil consumption. I would not recommend under any circumstances that people routinely overdose this product because it is capable long-term of causing some deterioration. It basically accelerates aging. That's all it does. But it does it not by doing a deposit. I could not force any deposition in cylinder or in the valves. So it cannot deposit on itself. And that's the point of showing this. No deposit, which is normally considered with other materials that don't give catalytically active deposits, that is a problem. It's not a problem with this product. Prove it. I've been working with this technology for 37 years. I am convinced that multi-level marketing is the absolute correct way for this to be sold for automotive gasoline. And the reason for that is the basis of the sale is trust. And you get a chance to explain to the customer that this product is different. It's not like those other 100 products. This one actually works. And the way they can tell it works is it will give them something absolutely unique in the fuel additive and catalyst industry. And that is, if you pull out the spark plug, it's red. And that red is not paint, it is the catalytic coating, and that's the reason it works. Okay? Absolutely unique, but you've got to explain it. And what you've got to explain is they've got to look for that red coating that the performance has been proven. And we'll get into that right now. Double-blind statistical study. I used to work, in fact, when I first did this development, I was working for a pharmaceutical company. They insisted that we prove it. So we did with their sales fleet. And it was done in 1973, 270-car national sales fleet. That means that the cars were operated by salesmen all over the United States. And we split that fleet into 3 groups. One had what's called a placebo, which means that they got a sample of a liquid that looked just like the other 2 liquids, but it was nothing but a solvent, could do nothing to improve fuel economy. The second one had a detergent in it that cleans up the fuel system. Back then, that was thought to be important, so we wanted to see what a detergent did. And then the MPG boost formulation in the third. And these were randomly selected, and this is as close as the random selection could get the baseline fuel economy. Not very good. That was, in fact, fleet average back in 1973. And then they did a 1,380-mile dose at a single concentration to condition the engine, and then the final 4 weeks showed with the placebo, the solvent that could do nothing, it showed nothing. No change, less than 1%. The detergent, which maybe should have done something, that's what Shell sold up in Canada as their mile per gallon gasoline. I don't know if any of you saw that. They ran the ad campaign for about 6 months trying to sell what the laboratory tests, EPA's test, what the laboratory test said was 3%. It did absolutely nothing on highway. Very, very typical. MPG boost, amazingly enough, 9.3%. We did another test in 1995 with a full fleet of 1,600 units, and this is the percent change month by month in fuel economy. And this block is when they used 1 month of the MPG boost at the conditioning, and then 3 months with the normal usage rate. And what you see is it bounced up to 10%, and then they stopped using it. Does anybody here remember why this stuff works? Anybody remember? Does it have to do with a catalyst coating on the piston? And do you think it's possible that if you stop using that catalyst precursor, that maybe that catalyst coating might last a little while? Does that sound reasonable? It's exactly what happens. And then it went away completely. The benefit went away completely. You have to keep using it. There's no free lunch. Okay? Anybody got that? This is really the bottom line. All of your customers, most of your customers, save maybe your mother and your brother, will want to see it work in their car. And they can. But the way they can is to look for that red spark plug. This is, one of my cars is a 2003 Civic Hybrid. And this is miles per gallon. You take how many miles you travel each fill, and you divide that by the number of gallons you put in when you fill a tank, and lo and behold, you get one of these little blue dots. And this is from when I bought the car, which had 241 miles on it, in 2002 until November of last year. And I just haven't updated it. The story is the same. One thing that I was interested in, this is new technology, this hybrid technology. There is absolutely no loss in fuel economy efficiency over that time frame. And that's really big news. That's very, very positive. Another thing that's kind of positive is that the average is 40.7 miles to the gallon. That's not too shabby. I'm a very aggressive driver. I drive jackrabbit starts, and I pass anybody that's not doing 75 miles an hour. And so that's why what they advertise, what the EPA numbers are on this car, I really should be able to get, as an average, about probably 45 to 47. But I'm an aggressive driver, and I pay the penalty. I enjoy the power. It's got lots of power. The problem that I'm trying to illustrate here is this green band is, again, the 95% confidence band. That means that 95% of the data points, miles per gallon at the fill, are going to lie within that range. And that range is 14 miles per gallon over an average of 40, or 34%. Now, you explain to me how your customer is going to sort out a real 10% benefit with a 34% variability. And I'll tell you he isn't, or she isn't. And I'll show it to you in just a minute. Now, there's more to the fuel economy story than just the 34% variability. This green band, it's a little wavy, I apologize for that, but that is the statistical data fit for seasonality. And lo and behold, when you operate a gasoline vehicle, I'm from Denver, so this car's operated in Denver. And it gets cold in Denver during the winter. And when you operate a gasoline or a diesel vehicle, in the winter, the lube oil runs colder because it's going down the road with cold air blowing over it. And the lube oil has a viscosity, and that slows, makes it harder for the pistons to go up and down. And that takes energy. So it's a minimum fuel economy every winter. It's the same minimum, but every winter it's a minimum. And in the summer, it's a maximum. The reason I say that is that if your customers absolutely insist on running a fuel economy test, have them start the test in February and have them finish the test in July. And they'll get 10%. The bad news is, if they put the MPG cap in July and then do the comparison in February, they'll see absolutely nothing. The product is 100% effective, and they'll see absolutely nothing. And just so that you're aware of it, the red line is the average fuel economy recorded by the computer, and the black line is the actual average fuel economy. For that vehicle over 2.5, well, this is actually, what, a 6-month period. And the point is that it does give, the fuel scan does give a little bit more precision to the measurement, but it is not accurate. It's off by 10%. The reason for that is this is oxygenated fuel, and oxygenated fuel has a lower BTU content, so it actually does provide fewer miles per gallon. But more importantly, this is a Japanese car, and it was calibrated for Japanese gasoline. And Japanese gasoline has a different density. It's got a higher density, therefore it has more fuel efficiency, and this is a volumetric. It measures the volume of the fuel, not the weight of the fuel. And so it's an error. It's just simply wrong. I just want you to know that that fuel gauge is not gospel. It doesn't make it easier to measure fuel economy. It's easier to get a number, and you get an instantaneous number, which is instantaneously misleading. It means absolutely nothing. The only way to measure fuel economy is with a large fleet, in doing routine business in a double-blind study, and we've done it twice. I just wanted to real quickly share this with you. This is exactly the same data that you just saw. What I've added here is the last 10 data points. I have simply added 10%. To the actual measured number, I added 10%. Okay? And so if somebody wants to test fuel economy, they compare the 10 fills before it to the 10 fills after, and what do they see? What do they see between these two green bands? Does anybody tell me? Nothing. They see nothing. It is an absolute, rigorous 10%, because I added it to the actual fuel economy that I actually got on the car. And you can't see it. Well, what kind of deal is that? You know what? If you pull the spark plugs on that car, they're red. Finally, to the end of the story. There's something called the 10-2-10. If you take 10 fills before they start using the MPG cap, you do 2 tanks with 2 tablets to 20 gallons dose, and then you go to 1 tablet to 20 gallons for 10 more tanks. Then that previous example that I showed you, if you do the statistical analysis, I'm an engineer, not a statistician, but I've learned enough statistics to do that, it actually shows statistically you can verify that 10% benefit that I showed on the previous slide. You can't see it, but it's there. And if you do this, if you take the 10 fills before, you order them from highest to lowest miles per gallon, throw out the 3 highest, the 3 lowest, and the average of 4 in the middle. You do the same at the end of it, order high to low, throw out the 3 highest, 3 lowest, average of 4 in the middle, and that shows almost exactly the same number as the formal statistical analysis. Believe me, I don't want to teach you people what I sweated blood to try and learn on statistics. It's not worth it, because that's not what's going to sell the product. What's going to sell the product is the red spark plug. By the way, that 10 months, 10 fills, 2 fills, 10 fills with normal driving is going to be 6 months. And the red spark plug happens immediately after the second fill. It's the end of my story, and I'm sticking to it.